Hey everybody, Eric Renier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this week's episode of The Numbers. Philippe, Canada could not beat Morocco. We chatted about it in our last episode. Sadly, they went down, but I think they did not go down as humiliatingly as the Americans did against the Belgians. So that is a consolation prize, I think.
At this point, I was just the Americans losing 4-1 to Belgium was the cherry on top. For me, I'm okay for the rest of the World Cup. That was the best. But yeah, Canada did okay. We had low expectations, and they definitely beat the expectations. But yeah, Morocco is pretty good, and so looking forward also to see how France is going to handle Morocco, because France has looked unbeatable in this tournament. But yeah, so this was the World Cup segment of the numbers. But how are you doing, Eric? How's summer treating you so far?
It's been fine. It's a bit of a grayer day today, so it looks like I'm recording. If you're watching, almost at nighttime, but no, it's just gray. Just gray and gloomy here, but that's okay. It's the summer. You need some rain now and then. There has been a little bit of rain on the Conservative caucus.
Yes.
That's my very well-crafted segue here. So there had been some reporting that there was going to be Senate appointments. A lot of people were focusing on Tom Pitfield, who is a longtime Liberal apparatchik organizer kind of person. He runs Data Sciences, which is like a polling and research firm that the Liberals often use. He was appointed to the Senate. But then there was also a surprising name among the list, a certain Richard Martel, who, wait a minute, already has a job, doesn't he?
Already has a job, has been multiple times elected as Conservative MP of Chicoutimi, le Fjord, which that was one of the closest ridings in the 25 election. The Conservatives won it, but there was 3 points between first and third place. The Bloc Québécois and the Liberals were right on the Conservatives' heels. And I mean, I think you and I talked about this many times. It feels like the Quebec caucus of the Conservatives, except M. Paulus, was not really all in on M. Poilievre from the get-go, and the discomfort maybe has continued, since the defeat of the Conservatives last year. But going into the Senate and leaving your seat open in Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord could be really interesting. Eric, is that kind of a floor crossing? That's like a half floor crossing, is it?
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, the reaction from the Conservatives has been interesting because they haven't torched him, which they did with the floor crossers. They congratulated him, thanked him, whatever. But it is sort of this halfway position. You're right, because it wasn't. If it was just a resignation, just want to go spend time with the family, go into the private sector, whatever. That's fine. You could interpret it as someone not believing in the leader's future, or that they have a political future ahead of them, whatever. But that's a normal thing. We saw Kathy Wagenthal is doing the same thing out in Saskatchewan. We're not really interpreting that as any real problem for Pierre Poilievre. Sometimes people just want to go off and do different things. But it is to move to the Senate. Yeah. So he's staying in federal politics, and it's also a Senate appointment that is made by a Liberal prime minister. That is not very common. I looked it up. Yep. How long do you think it's been since an MP was plucked out of the House, just plucked, and put into the Senate by a prime minister from a different party?
Oh, that's a good one. Not in this century, am I wrong? I don't think it's happened in this century. Okay, so it's been over 50 years? Tell me.
The last one was in 1993.
93.
But it was Brian Mulroney who did it about a few weeks before he was out as prime minister. He chose Marcel Prudhomme. He was a Liberal MP, brought him to the Senate.
Right.
But that's more than 30 years ago. And the case before that I could find was in 1978. Pierre Trudeau did it with Claude Wagner.
Wow.
So it's just not very common. So this is an unusual thing. And it's hard to know. We need some of that TikTok reporting on what happened here. Was it Martel who requested going to the Senate? Did the Liberals approach Martel to cross the floor? And he said, I don't want to do that. But they said, how about a Senate seat? I don't know. But that is what makes it a little bit weirder, because it is Martel taking this position at the request, or that he requested, of the Liberals, and the Liberals were happy to give it to him. So it is it's not a huge blow for Pierre Poilievre, but it's also not a nothing.
There's no way. There's no way Martel does this if the parties are tied in the polls and we're heading maybe into an election next year because it's a minority. Like the context now that Liberals have a majority and the Conservatives rather kind of look weak, have been looking weak for many months now. There's no way Martel does this if not for the context. So. It's hard to see clear skies ahead on the horizon for the Conservatives more and more, right? I mean, you and I discussed the floor crossing. It's like drip, drip, drip happening. There was like once a month or something from December to March. And now this. It's just such a weird scenario. But we have to talk about the riding, though, Chicoutimi Le Fjord. Because it's also a risk for the Liberals, right? To invite M. Martel. Like, the Bloc could win Chicoutimi Le Fjord. I could definitely see it. And there's, of course, the Saint-Hyacinthe Bagot-Acton that's coming up in the next 6 months. So there's 4 openings in Quebec right now. Right now. And three of them... will be. And 3 of them could be competitive for the Bloc Québécois. So you're kind of putting this on the Bloc Québécois to say, here's a chance for a comeback and for momentum, especially with the Quebec election in 3 months. I don't know. This is a very weird, strange situation. But could the Conservatives win back Chicoutimi Le Fjord? I mean, Martel was a big part of why they kept it. And now he's gone. And I really wonder. This is a strange move, but it will make for a good live stream. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Right now there will be at least 7 by-elections within the next 6 to 8 months, depending on when they're called and when the people resign. You mentioned the 4 in Quebec, so there's Rosemont, La Petite Patrie, Laurier, Sainte-Marie, both of them in Montreal. You mentioned Saint-Hyacinthe, and now we have Chicoutimi Le Fjord, which is in like a bit more of the regions. So it's a nice little mix of ridings. And yeah, this one is going to be nuts. It was, just to give people the numbers, and it was 34 for the Conservatives, 31 for the Bloc, and 31 for the Liberals. So it was a 3-way race. Yeah. And that is such a close 3-way race that anybody could win it. And it could come down to who recruits the best candidate. But even that is a bit of, you think about who could recruit the best candidate right now. The best sovereignist candidates probably want to run for the PQ. Is there going to be a lot of people putting up their hand with the Conservatives when they're not doing so great in the polls? I don't know. I think the Liberals have the inside shot at maybe getting the best candidate. And that could make a big difference, because if you are a Federalist Liberal, Carney's team's probably got a better shot in Chicoutimi than Charles Milliard at the provincial level. So
oh my God, yeah.
I was being modest. Yes. But so it makes for a very interesting by-election. By far, I think. I mean, there's some other dynamics with the other 6, but by far, I think this is going to be the most interesting one and the most unpredictable.
I think so, because of the thing is the only one where the Conservatives are in a good position, right? The Conservatives are not competitive in Montreal, in Saint-Hyacinthe, Beaches East York. What's the other one?
I mean, they'll win out in Saskatchewan, but
yeah, the Saskatchewan is a lock, and Capilano, or is that? Yeah, that's Capilano. It would be a really big stretch to think the Conservatives could win, especially with the numbers we're seeing right now in British Columbia. Federally, the Liberals are doing very well in BC. I wonder how they split those, right? We won't have... It would be great to have 7 by-elections in one night. It would be awesome. It's just, I don't see that happening. But give us 3 or 4 on the same night, including Chicoutimi Le Fjord and maybe another Quebec one. Oh, now we're cooking. That's going to be a good night. And the recruiting, this is a good point, Eric, because the Conservatives are not doing too well in Quebec. The provincial Conservatives are holding their steady around 15%. The federal Conservatives around 20, 22, depending on the poll. But it's not an improvement over last year. And when you look at Pierre Poilievre, and I don't want to pile on here, but Pierre Poilievre's personal numbers in Quebec are really, really poor. And so it's like M. Martel basically won Chicoutimi Le Fjord, despite they had Poilievre behind him. So if the Liberals don't win Chicoutimi Le Fjord next time, and perhaps they won't win it in my lifetime. This is the best shot they will have. That will be very interesting to see who they pick. And what do you make of the timing? If you're the Liberals, if you're Carney, Do you call those by-elections as soon as possible? Like I think the limit would be what? It would start in early August or something. I think there's a number of days of limit. And then you have the by-election just as Quebec is entering its campaign? Or do you wait late fall, maybe early winter? What is the best timing, do you think?
The complicating factor is that Boulris and Guilbeault haven't resigned yet. So
that's true, huh? Yeah.
They can't call those for at least another 2 weeks or so. So with every day, that keeps pushing the calendar back. So if they wanted to have them all at the same time, that starts to get complicated. If they don't care about that, and Carney did say when he was asked in a question maybe last week about the by-election that he said they probably won't be all on the same day. Now, who knows what he meant when he was talking about that? Maybe he meant the BC ones versus Quebec, whatever. There's municipal elections in BC. There's municipal elections in Ontario in October. So that also complicates things in addition to the Quebec provincial election. So yeah, but if I could choose and I was the Liberals, I think I would get them done before the provincial election. I wouldn't.
Really? You would go like right away, huh? Oh.
They're doing well in the polls right now. Maybe they won't be in 3-4 months. So you know, Quebec especially can be pretty swingy. So I would just get them done kind of low kind of interest turnout. So maybe that would benefit the Liberals if they recruited some decent candidates. Yeah, I would try to go sooner than later, but I don't know. There are other. You get to, so there's different spending things with by-elections. The candidate obviously has a spending limit within their own riding, but there is a spending limit for the national party that is spread out across all the by-elections that are taking place at the same time. So if you have 7 by-elections, that increases the amount that the national party can spend by 7 times versus just 1. So I mean that means the Liberals could take that spending room that they would have in Saskatchewan and put it in the Quebec riding. So there's different kind of calculations to make, but they don't know when Boulris is going to resign, and who knows if Guilbeault is telling them when he's going to resign. I don't know.
That's also, by the way, just a side note on this. That was a discussion for the Bloc Québécois in the last round of by-elections. So you had Terrebonne and 2 Toronto ridings, right? And obviously the Liberals had the 2 Toronto ridings. They were heavily favored, so they had triple the amount of spending and resources that they poured into Terrebonne. And the Bloc Québécois, of course, only had 1 riding, but there's nothing stopping the Bloc Québécois. You know where I'm going here. Just put un candidat poteau. How do you call that in English? Un candidat poteau. Just put
a paper candidate.
Yeah, just a paper candidate in Vancouver Capilano for the Bloc Québécois, and don't run there and explain to people, look, these are the rules and the Liberals benefit from those rules. Why don't the Bloc Québécois present something in rural Saskatchewan and just don't run? And just don't run so you can have double the spending. I know it's cynical, maybe, and I see you smirking here, but
well, it'd be funny because you know that they'd get at least a few votes, and
of course
maybe
they would.
They end up beating a party that is actually running. So.
But you have to play by the rules, and these are the rules. If you're the Bloc Québécois and you feel like, oh, it's not fair, the Liberals will outspend us, then play by the rules. Present some paper candidate in Capilano and in rural Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I want to see the Bloc candidate in Yorkton, Melville.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Campaigning door to door with Fleur Delis.
Doing the door knocking for sure.
Like, hi, I just want to give funding to my party to better win in Quebec.
Yeah.
Anyway, do it. Anyway, so.
All right, we'll see when that's going to happen. No clue yet. We haven't heard any nominations yet, so the Liberals don't seem to be in any rush because usually the Liberals, when they are about to call their by-elections, they have some nominations either set up or they appoint their candidates or that kind of thing. So keep an eye out for that when we see the Liberals, because they control the calendar, when they set their nomination dates, when they actually name some candidates, because that'll be the clue that they're probably going to go soon. But so I don't think we're getting a call in a week. But maybe later on. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the fall. Maybe it'll be the winter. Either way, it'll be a fun night.
One last thing before we move off this topic, because I just remembered. So before the Chicoutimi Fjord happened, I talked to people in the Bloc Québécois. They were really hoping for those Quebec by-elections to happen before the Quebec election, right? So by winning them, maybe you could give some momentum to the sovereigntists in Quebec and the Parti Québécois. One of the fears is that if Parti Québécois does win in October, we know historically it's not always good for the Bloc Québécois in the months following, right? But it doesn't seem like the timing is just tight, right? There's no way we have a federal by-elections during a Quebec campaign, I think. But anyway, so to be continued on this.
Okay, we got some federal polls. Now, one of them is going to capture most of our attention because it was interesting. Before we get to that, we had just the 3 national polls, the 2 trackers that came out, and also an abacus. Liaison had 43% for the Liberals, 34% for the Conservatives, 14% for the NDP. Yeah. Nanos had 41% for the Liberals, 32% for the Conservatives, 15% for the NDP. And then abacus had 44% for the Liberals, 36% for the Conservatives, and 8% for the NDP.
Yeah.
My interesting note here is that I took these 3 polls. I looked at the last time they're all in the field. I averaged them all out. The only shift has been, I think it was a 1 point. It was a 1 point gain on average for the Conservatives across these 3 polls. So absolutely nothing going on. But last time we chatted, you're still talking about that Léger poll, that the 6 that they had in the Léger for the NDP was still kind of odd. Now we got an 8 for abacus, so it still kind of adds to the intrigue.
So right now, the biggest spread in the polls is not the Liberals, is not the Conservative, it's the NDP. So again, we talked about Léger at 6% now and abacus with 8%, but the 2 phone polls, the 2 phone trackers, 14 and 15 for the NDP. I mean, the NDP would be so grateful to the universe to be at 15% right now in the polls. Obviously, we have to average them out. But it's a wonder where exactly it is. And perhaps it's because there's still some confusion. There are left of center liberals who had lent their vote to Mark Carney last year that may be flocking back to the NDP because they don't like the pipeline. They don't like how Carney's handling his prime ministership. But this is really soft support. If you have polls that range from 8% to 15% for the NDP, if I had an over-under, I would bet closer to 8 than closer to 15 just because of it is the NDP. What is your take on this, Eric?
Yeah, the difference between the online, the phone, that's an interesting kind of aspect to this. And I do think that the NDP, as we'll get to in a bit, might benefit from a little bit of a very unattached kind of vote. A bit of a parked vote, sometimes a none of the above, because as we'll get to, their leader's not very well known, so it might not be getting a lot of attraction there. But generally speaking, like status quo in the polls, the NDP, yes, sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. As we always say, you follow the average, so who does it really matter that much? We're not we don't have an election tomorrow. If there was an election tomorrow, I doubt we'd be having a 7-point spread for the NDP right. in the polls, right? As people kind of narrow their options down and the undecideds go away. Kind of a boring week of federal polling again. But should we talk about the more fun poll?
Yes, we absolutely should, because I haven't chuckled at a poll in a long time, and thank you to Pollara for doing this again, because this gave us so much material last time they did it, and they did it again. So, Eric, why don't you introduce this fun Pollara poll? I think they did it a year ago, or I think it was a year ago, maybe last fall. But
no, it was actually a while ago. It was in 2023.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. Time passes.
Oh my God.
But anyway, this is a poll from Pollara Strategic Insights. So what they did in the last time is that we often see polls and they say, like, here's a leader's name or here's a politician's name. What's your view of them? And one of the options is often, I don't know who they are. But we know that if like how many times have you've known what a person's name is, but you can't think of it. But if you saw it, then you would know it right away.
Yeah.
So what Pollara does instead is says, who is the leader of the Conservative Party? And in this case, which they did for the first time, they said, who is the leader of the NDP? And because it's an online poll, people had to type in the name. So they had to know what the name was. And this is a real kind of reality check about polling on one hand, but also people, how much they follow politics and how much they are engaged in it. So when we do see fluctuations in the polls, we have to remember that a lot of the respondents aren't all that engaged in it. And so from week to week, there might not be that much movement. So I think we'll start with maybe Pierre Poilievre, because we actually have some numbers to compare it to. In 2023, 57% of Canadians were able to write down a name that was at least somewhat similar to Pierre Poilievre. And as we've mentioned a couple times in this podcast, we had some very funny responses like, what was it?
Power Poilievre.
Power Poilievre was a good one. Paul Leliev was another one I liked. But anyway, there was 57% of people who could do it. And then Pollara asked again, and the result was 57%.
That's right.
Again, could name the leader of the Federal Conservative Party. First of all, what do you think about the fact that hasn't changed?
I don't know what I think of this. But 57% who know the name, and then there's another 21% who say, I have a general idea, but I forget the name. I mean, what was the turnout in the last election? It was around 66, right? We have to, again, the median voter is not as engaged in politics as you and I are. We know that, but sometimes this is a huge reality check. And by the way, in the 57%, we should mention, in the report from Pollara, you can see examples of the answers that they still accepted because it was close enough. And they write in the report, they said, we are generous markers. The following types of answers were close enough and marked as correct. And you have Pierre Poilievre, Pierre Polisher, PP, Pierre Police.
Which actually sounds a lot like a Conservative MP. But
Poli somebody. They accepted Poli somebody as part of their 50%. So if you think about it, some of these are, not very close. So it's probably below 50.
Paul Villiers. There's also this person. This one is my favorite because I think it's someone who did not know how to spell a name in French.
Yeah.
And it was Pierre Poilievre. So anyway, we're not laughing at these folks. It's just that these are funny and it is a reality check, I find.
It is, and we're not calling people stupid here. It's like it's not like it's not what we're doing. It's just that like when we poll, sometimes so you have when you have a Quebec poll and you ask about sovereignty and you realize that 2% of Liberal voters are in favor of sovereignty, that's part of the noise. It's just that in the polling we see that some of the noise cancels each other out, right? Like some of the incorrect answers you can read in the report was Éric Duhem. Well, Éric Duhem he is a conservative leader. It's just he's in Quebec. Ford, okay. Some people, Doug Ford, we know in Ontario, some voters in Ontario, I'm not generalizing here, but are not very engaged. We see the Ontario Liberals doing well when the federal Liberals are doing well. There's crossover there. But the one who answers Stephen Harper, he's been gone for a dozen years now, or almost a dozen.
They just woke up from a coma. I think he's still a leader, right? But you do kind of wonder if this is because they were able to get this after an election and before an election. Like that's
true. Yeah.
Maybe this is almost the most that an opposition leader can get, where people are able to actually name the name. I know if they did like Mark Carney, it would have been curious to see Mark Carney. Justin Trudeau, everybody knew Justin Trudeau because they knew of him before politics. But I'd be curious what Mark Carney's score would be. I'm guessing high because everybody sees Mark Carney's name in headlines and everything like that. But all right. So that was Pierre Poilievre. So he hasn't.
But hang on though, because we have to also say one more thing. He has a French-sounding name that I think it would be hard to pronounce for many English Canadians. No offense, but if this guy's name was Carl Smith or something, I think he would be higher just because there would be more familiarity. He's been federal leader for 3 years now? Well, soon 4 years actually. That's right. September 22. That's right. 4 years. I think you're right on this. It's as high as it's ever going to get, I think. But, okay, so you were saying the NDP leader, right?
Well, this was the new one.
Yep.
And so they asked the same thing for Avi Lewis, the leader of the NDP. Now, he's only been there for 3 months based on when this poll was done, because it was done in June. Whereas Pierre Poilievre last time had been in office for almost a year. He was in the Conservative leader. But anyway, these numbers are quite poor. 12%. 12% of Canadians could name the leader of the NDP. 7%, which is interesting, only 2% of Canadians incorrectly named the Conservative leader. Like they put up a name that was wrong.
Yeah.
7% of Canadians, so almost as much as could name Avi Lewis, put a wrong name. including 2% of Canadians who thought it was still Jagmeet Singh. You had 35% who said they have a general idea but forget name. But when you have this, so many people who got the name wrong, makes me think some people might have just not remembered Jagmeet Singh's name. But yeah, 12% for Avi Lewis. He still has a lot of work to do.
And there's the excuse of the familiarity of the name here doesn't work. Lewis is pretty standard, but he doesn't have a seat. He hasn't been there for a long time. The NDP has been decimated in last year's election. They are not part of the conversation right now. And I speak from my context here in Montreal. We have an election coming in 2 months. There's a left-wing party in Quebec, Québec Solidaire. It's doing poorly in the polls. And none of the other 4 parties are really running on the left. So perhaps this is also a reflection that the left is not really part of the conversation right now. Monsieur Lewis has a steep hill in front of him. Did you want to mention the wrong names that were suggested? Because some of them are fun. So.
Yeah, they're not as creative. So we got Avi Lewis, we got Avi Louis or Avi Lewis spelled like St. Louis. Yeah. We got Abby, we got just Avi, we got Ari Lewis, we got Avi Lewis with a W. We got this one in French, which was the conjoint de Naomi Klein, which translates to the husband of Naomi Klein, which is correct.
Yep.
And then we had Davis Lewis, which sounds like a jazz player or something like that. But but anyway, those were the ones that were marked as correct.
Yeah.
The ones that were marked as incorrect are actually quite interesting. So there was Jagmeet Singh. There was one person who was almost up to date. They said waiting for the new leader. So they should check the news. But there was Don Davies. So someone had Don Davies, which is impressive. He was an interim leader for a minute. Yeah. You had Andrew Davies, which is, I think, the love child of Andrew Scheer and Don Davies. Wab Canoe. And then this one I thought was actually the best. It was Merit Singh.
Yeah.
So this person was familiar enough with Merit Styles to remember Merit.
Yeah.
But not enough to remember the last name of the current leader. So some interesting little glimpses in the psychology of Canadians as they answer a poll. Also Logan.
Just Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's from the movie.
Is there an NDP leader named Logan anywhere here right now? Or recently? I don't think so.
No.
But anyway.
No. There's just Hugh Jackman's character, Wolverine. But... who is Canadian?
Oh, I didn't think of that. The person who answered Wab Canoe was maybe doing a little wishful thinking as well.
Maybe they came from the future.
Maybe it's possible.
It's a time traveler.
There you go. Maybe in a few years he was eventually right. So there you go.
Yeah.
But 12% is really bad. Again, if they do this next year and he's at 24, we'll be like, okay, it was a question of time. If they do this, if Pollara does the same poll next year and he's at 15, then it's a catastrophe, right? But yeah, we'll see.
They also had for cabinet ministers, they had 24% could name at least one. The most recalled was Mélanie Joly, in part, I think, because she was very well known in Quebec because she ran for the mayor's office in Montreal in 2013, so she's known there. Nida Nan had 9%, Dominic Leblanc had 9%, François-Philippe Champagne had 8%, and then it went down to very small numbers. So that is also another little reminder. Mélanie Joly has been a Liberal MP and a cabinet minister for 11 years.
Yeah.
And 14% could name her. So that's not much higher than Avi Lewis. It does kind of show how cabinet ministers, they might mean a lot in Ottawa. Outside of Ottawa, it depends if they're the local cabinet minister, but they are not very well-known figures.
But poor Miss Jill McKnight, who is in the last place. Did you see this? In the very last place, 0.02%.
That must have been one person.
I think I calculated 4 person, but
okay,
that's
4 people. That's good.
4 people there. So I guess they live in Delta because, and it's their MP. Again, this is not a slight on MPs. We know that our politics is very centered on leaders, but some of these cabinet ministers have been there for a long time. It's just that they don't take the spotlight as much. I mean, Mélanie Joly has occupied many big portfolios, including foreign affairs, where she traveled the world. There's a lot of photo ops with Mélanie Joly, but Yeah, again, reality check. Thank you for Pollara for doing this poll. This is quite helpful.
All right, shall we move on to some provincial stuff?
Yeah, we have strange numbers.
Yeah, we have strange numbers to talk about.
In Atlantic Canada, especially. So, Eric, why don't you start us off? What do we have here?
Well, we had our first voting intentions numbers from Narrative Research, which is an Atlantic Canada, Halifax-based polling company that used to put out quarterly voting intentions numbers. They haven't done it, as far as I can tell, since 2024.
It's been a while.
So this is the first time they decided to come back. So they have numbers for each of the provinces. They're all a bit weird. And then in Nova Scotia, we also had a poll from Abacus. Now, Abacus has recently opened up an office also out in Halifax, so they've been putting out some semi-regular polls in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And they don't really have that much all in common. So Abacus had for Nova Scotia 40 for the PCs, 31 for the NDP, 22 for the Liberals. And then Narrative had 45 for the NDP, 29 for the PCs, and 23 for the Liberals.
Same Liberal number.
Not like the other.
Same Liberal number for both firms.
Yeah, there you go.
They agree on the Liberals. Okay. So Abacus has been doing, and it's out like a quarterly or almost quarterly tracker now in Nova Scotia. 40% for the PCs is lower than they had in the election. 31% for the NDP is higher than they had in the election, but it feels still plausible. When I saw the Narrative Research, I thought it was a typo. Like, how do you go from the NDP in the mid-20s all the way to 45%? And then the PCs of Tim Houston, we saw the numbers, the personal numbers for Tim Houston go down a bit. We saw that in the Angus Reid report card from the premiers. We saw that in other polls. But Narrative Research really, like how do you get so far off and still publish? You have, when you put that, it's a statement. Sorry, but you know, the numbers are what they are. But if you have numbers that are way out of left field, you have to be pretty confident in your methodology and your tracking to put that out. So yeah, it's puzzling that we have such a big discrepancy, and it's not a sample size issue. I think Abacus had 600 people. That's fine. Narrative, what was Narrative? I think 500 people. That's fine as well. It's not. This is a big polling error, and if we have to go with historical track record, sorry Narrative, but you're not winning this one. So it'll be interesting to see if other pollsters go in Nova Scotia. Very few do. Perhaps we'll have one at the end of the summer. But it feels like Narrative had a very Halifax-centered sample. Is that your read as well, Eric? Am I wrong here?
Well, yeah, it's hard to reconcile these numbers.
You can't. It's not hard.
No, you can't reconcile the numbers, but you can also can't reconcile them with, Abacus has been putting up polls for a little while in Nova Scotia, and the trend line has not been anywhere close to this. Their previous poll more or less had the exact same numbers as they had in their current poll. We had that by-election in the Cape Breton riding that just took place a couple weeks ago. Had the PCs down a little bit, had the Liberals up a bit, had the NDP down. Yeah. Even if the NDP is not necessarily going to be competitive in a riding like this, if they're at 45% province-wide, they're not going to get 9% in this riding. So you have to look at the preponderance of evidence here. I think you can say, all right, PCs are probably down. That seems fair. We've seen that in a number of polls. We've seen that in the approval ratings. The NDP might be up. They seem to be doing okay. And their leader in the Abacus poll, positive numbers. Claudia Chender, she seems to be doing very good. But I don't think the NDP is leading by 16 points among decided voters right now. We need to see more for that. I think we gotta rely on the Abacus numbers for now. But then we also got some kind of weird numbers from the rest of the region.
I think we should start here with PEI because we have a reference point that will be used in the coming days. Eric, why don't you present the PEI numbers to our audience because they are quite something as well.
Yeah. So the first caveat is this was a sample of about 150. And it was an online panel, which is a bit weird in PEI.
Yes, it is.
You need to make sure your panel is like Angus Reid Institute never releases from PEI because they say their panel's too small, and so they mean they can't get independent samples every time they go in. just keep on polling the same people because they have like I have no idea how many, but if you have like 200 people in the panel, you're going to keep polling the same people. It's not the same as a representative sample, kind of a randomish kind of idea. But anyway, in this poll, the PI Greens were leading, not by a little bit.
They were leading.
54% for the Green Party of Prince Edward Island, 26% for the Liberals, and 18% for the governing PCs.
Jesus.
This is a huge swing. Now, we have seen some polls in the past, ahead of the 2019 election, where the PI Greens were in the lead or vying for the lead. But 54%.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. But, okay. So again, I don't want to pile on a narrative. It's just that when you publish numbers that are so out there, that means they're very confident in their numbers. They didn't have to publish this. I mean, they kept their numbers to their clients and private. They decided to release this latest round, and I don't get it. But perhaps we'll be proven wrong. There's a by-election coming, right? In Cornwall, Meadowbank, in its next Monday. And this could act as a barometer. Eric, would you explain us why?
Yeah, well, this is a district, as they say on the island.
Yeah.
That is just a little bit outside of Charlottetown. So I guess it might even have a little bit of a mix of not suburban in the same way that we would think, but some rural kind of elements to it. The result in the last election in 2023 was 55 for the PCs, 24 for the Greens, 19 for the Liberals. This is very close to what the province-wide vote was. So I'm not going to say that Cornwall Meadowbank is like a microcosm of Prince Edward Island, but in terms of the election results, it kind of was. So we will get a bit of an indication here. If we see on Monday that the PCs win it with 45, and the Greens are up to 29 or something like that, where there's just a tiny little bit of shift. I mean, maybe narrative is getting the direction correct, but if we have seen a drop from around, I think the PCs got 56, something like that in the last election. Yeah. If they've gone from 56 to 18, they're going to drop in this riding from 55 to at least 20s. But I know the PIs, by-elections, they can swing around very dramatically. The Liberal leader, Robert Mitchell, is running for the Liberals here, so that could give them a boost. But it is going to be a little bit of a test of this poll number. If we do see if the Greens win this, or the Greens make a jump of 15, 20 points.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll say, okay, something's going on here, and we shouldn't have scoffed. But, I mean, Greens 54%, Liberals 26%. Would there even be a non-Green seat across the island?
Would there be a single PC seat? If the PCs are at 18, they dropped 40 points across the island, they would be wiped out. So
the Greens probably go 27 for 27.
My God. That's what it's anyway. It's something. It's interesting. We'll follow on Monday night. I mean, we don't usually give tons of attention to PEI by-elections in the middle of July. Right? Let's be fair. But
beggars can't be choosers.
We'll look at this one to see if there's movement again. And just to state again, we're scoffing. We're not scoffing. We're pre-scoffing. If we are wrong, yes, we are surprised. That's right. Sometimes we say in French, instead of saying it's bad or it's good, we say c'est particulier. Hein? C'est particulier. So c'est très particulier. And if on Monday we see that narrative has the right direction, we'll acknowledge as such. Yes, 150 people is not a lot, but when you poll 150 people and you're good, you don't miss by 20 points or 25.
Yeah, the margin of error is like 8 or
7
for
So this is a test, and the fact that we have this by-election, I know it's like 2,000 people, so it's not a lot of people, but it's a good barometer. And be careful, narrative. Like, we need a good Atlantic poster, right? So anyway, enough about PEI. What about the others, Eric?
Well, not as shocking. Newfoundland and Labrador had the PCs 38, Liberals at 36, 25 for the NDP, which seems a bit high, but that's plausible. If you told me the PCs were up by 2 points, I wouldn't be shocked by that. That's largely what the margin was in the last election. In New Brunswick, it had 41 for the Liberals, 30 for the PCs, 13 for the Greens, but also 9 for the Libertarians.
Yeah.
I don't think the Libertarians are making a comeback. I don't think they ever were there to begin with. Yeah. And also, it had super high results for the Libertarians in northern New Brunswick, which makes me think that there might have been some responses who saw the Parti Libertarien and the Parti Libéral, and because there's lots of francophones in New Brunswick, northern New Brunswick, and might have clicked on the wrong button. But other than that, take out the Libertarians, give some of that support maybe to the PCs. This result is not that crazy.
No, it's
but
not.
Again,
Why were the Libertarians even an option here? Like, when was
because
the last
they
time
exist?
they were?
I guess I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well,
just an odd thing. That's one of the things we talked about this often in Alberta polling and Saskatchewan polling, for example.
Just
BC. You don't need to include every party. Sometimes
you don't.
That does not help.
No.
Anyway. No by-elections to calibrate things there anyway. But anyway, interesting results out on the East Coast. All right, so one thing we're going to do for the summer, every 2 weeks we're going to have a mailbag segment for members of our Patreon in our normal episode because, there's not as much to talk about during the summer, so we wanted to try to give people more to chew on every Thursday. So if you want to join the Patreon and you haven't done it yet, you can go to thenumberspod.ca and you'll get access to the mailbag segment. That is going to start right now. If you are a member of the Patreon already, thank you, and stick around. We're just going to get to your questions. All right, number of the week. What do you got?
Okay, so I don't have much from a poll, but I have the aggregation of poll, plus 21. So plus 21 is the net approval for Mr. Carney's government entering July in the 338 approval tracker. 56% approve, 35% disapprove. It's been steady for many months now. It peaked in the late winter, and it has stabilized around this mark. To have a liberal prime minister at plus 21 entering his second year as PM with all the turbulent waters that we've been navigating, I think is remarkable. We wonder how long it would last, but we also wondered that last fall, and it's gotten better since for the federal Liberals that have a majority, and the majority seems to be growing. So considering that opposition parties are losing MPs, so that's my number of the week. What about you, Eric?
My number is going to be 3%. This was the number of people in Quebec who could name the leader of the NDP. Avi Lewis had just 3% recognition in Quebec.
Yeah,
that's not a very good number. Not surprising that the NDP would struggle that much in Quebec when they're polling somewhere around 6% on average, let's say. So that's not great, but and it's also not surprising. But it does kind of bring up those by-elections in Rosemont and in Laurier-Sainte-Marie. They're going to need some recognizable candidates locally because a visit by the leader is not going to help. Oh, hello, who are you? Nice to have you in Montreal. But so some more work to do for the New Democrats, and still got so much more building to do in Quebec to get anywhere close to where things were prior to 2015, prior to 2019 when they lost almost everything that they still had. All right, well, that'll be it for this week. If you want to support the podcast, get the mailbag every 2 weeks, join the Discord, get early and ad-free access to the episodes, go to thenumberspod.ca. We appreciate your support and want to wish everybody a great weekend, and we'll be back in a week. And Philippe, same to you. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody. The quiz will be back. I'm not letting Eric off the hook. It will be back. I'm just taking a little break. But thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend.